What's going on, guys? MerfsYT13 here, and we are back with another episode of WWE Match of the Week and my Raw review. And holy crap, what a weekend of wrestling we've all just been through. Some 9 hours of wrestling I watched over 3 days. Absolutely insane. All of it great. Well, most of it great. All of it good. In particular, an outstanding Monday Night Raw. But firstly, we had NXT Brooklyn. My goodness me, what a show, guys. That was seriously an amazing show. Kudos to the Brooklyn crowd. Amazing job. They were so supportive of everybody. They got behind everything, and it was an absolutely fantastic show. Headlined, spotlighted, whatever you want to call it, by the Women's Championship match between Sasha Banks and Bayley. My goodness me, what a match that was. Such a tough act to follow for Finn Balor and Kevin Owens in the ladder match. I thought they did a fantastic job as well, but the night belonged to the women, and that's what we're talking about when we talk about a Divas Revolution. Not 9 women tag team matches in a 10-minute slot, not 3-on-3s and all these sorts of things. One-on-one matches, give them 25 minutes and look at what they can do. Both women, outstanding. Absolutely astounding match, and I'm not going to lie to you, I had a little bit of a lump in my throat when Bayley won the title, because that's what NXT do best. NXT build emotion, and they build meaning in their storylines, and they build up the matches perfectly. And I thought they did a fantastic job in the video packages explaining Bayley's history there, the fact that she's the only one of the 4 horsewomen that hasn't been called up, and just an outstanding match as well. Sasha Banks, I mean, what more could you say about that girl? She is absolutely phenomenal, and she is the very next big thing since Lita, Trish Stratus, Sable, whoever you want to put in that category. Sasha Banks will be at the top of the heap, and she says that she wants to main event a pay-per-view one day. And with performances like that, and if they're given a chance by Vinnie Mac in the back, then she will be the headliner that she is saying she's going to be. And also on that show, the ladder match, of course, I thought that was a brutal and fantastic match as well. It was just a victim of going on after Sasha Banks and Bayley, because they absolutely tore the house down. But, you know, Finn Balor, he retains. He's going to be in NXT for a while. I certainly wouldn't be expecting major things from Finn Balor on the main roster, because I think they're pretty thin on NXT at the moment. I know Apollo Crews, he debuted. I thought he looked really good. The crowd sort of, they did get behind him a little bit, because I think he's wrestled for Ring of Honor. Let me know in the comments. I'm not sure if he's wrestled for Ring of Honor. I'm pretty sure he has, as Uhaa Nation. But yeah, he was fantastic. Vaudevillains won the titles. I think they're babyfaces now. That was a good match as well. Everything on that show was absolutely fantastic. And the night after, we got SummerSlam. So SummerSlam was another good show, but again, it was a victim of going on after NXT, because NXT, honestly, the way they do things down there and how passionate the fans are about the product is absolutely astounding. So kudos to everybody in NXT. But we'll talk a little bit about SummerSlam. SummerSlam had several very, very strange happenings. Not much to talk about on the undercard, if I'm honest. The main talking points obviously were John Cena and Seth Rollins, with Jon Stewart, of all people, getting involved in the finish. I thought it was a little bit confusing, and I'm not really sure about Jon Stewart being put in that spot, because unless he's a GM, he's just a celebrity, and a celebrity shouldn't have that much power over what goes on. So unless they have plans to use Jon Stewart in more of a general manager, full-time screen role, where he sort of becomes an evil boss sort of thing maybe, or he's going to be part of the show in somewhat, I thought that was a little bit strange, but we got the right result. Seth Rollins is the United States and World Heavyweight Champion, so we were expecting some real gloating, and that's exactly what we got on Raw, which we'll talk about in a second. Another talking point of SummerSlam, of course, was The Undertaker versus Brock Lesnar. And I thought this was a really impressive match from The Undertaker in particular, because he laid it all out on the line, man. He was absolutely amazing. The guy, I'm not sure how old he is, he's probably nearly 60, and he just laid it out on the line. He was taking huge bumps for a guy of his age and of his health. Brock Lesnar, obviously he's unbelievable. He's just an absolute colossus, and he plays that role to the absolute nth degree. And the finish, though, I mean, that's what everybody's talking about, right? Is the finish. I just could not understand what was going on. People were sitting in disbelief in the crowd. It killed the vibe of the crowd straight away. The bell ringing just out of nowhere, and then no explanation, and all of, we had the commentators, but I really felt for the Brooklyn crowd because they'd been so great, and now they were like, okay, what the fuck's going on? But Undertaker tapped out, and Little Nate, Charles Robinson, he didn't see it, but the timekeeper saw it, which I reckon the timekeeper had struggled to see anything in the ring over that barricade. Apparently the timekeeper saw it. Undertaker tapped out, he rang the bell, he jumped the gun apparently, but I just thought it was so stupid. There's better ways to protect both guys than to have, I guess, a dusty finish, and I guess that's probably as good a tribute as any to Dusty Rhodes as you'll ever see. But, it did serve its purpose. Brock Lesnar flipped him off as he was fading, and we got The Undertaker winning, so I guess we're going to get the rubber match at WrestleMania. I think that's the only logical way to go. I can't see The Undertaker wanting to wrestle on Royal Rumble and then on WrestleMania. I think he's going to take probably 6 or so months off, and then we'll get back, and he'll come back, and the rubber match will be in Dallas. Brock Lesnar versus The Undertaker, and I dare say, given some of the reports that I'm reading, that The Undertaker will ride off into the sunset. The heel tactics I don't understand. That'll all be forgotten by the time we get to WrestleMania, and The Undertaker will be over as a huge babyface in front of about 100,000 people in Dallas, and I think he's going over Brock Lesnar to ride off into the sunset. Speaking of Brock Lesnar and Monday Night Raw, this, again, was an outstanding Monday Night Raw, and we opened with Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman coming out. Paul Heyman, super pissed off about the result, obviously, as you can imagine. They both walked out with a swagger, and they looked cool as shit, and Paul Heyman goes on a rant. He was just, as Heyman is, he can understand how uncomfortable it may be for the fairy tale to end and all of these sort of things. He was saying it was great, and this is fantastic. I really do like the way Paul Heyman sums up and pretty much fixes all the writers' loopholes for them in one promo. It shows how genius he is. He basically came out and he challenged The Undertaker to a fight. The Undertaker, of course, isn't there. He mentioned that The Undertaker collapsed on his way out of the arena, which I think is true. I don't know how much to read into it. I can't imagine he'd be selling all the way to the entrance ramp like that, but you never know. He's an absolute 100% pro, so he may have been selling the whole way. Brock Lesnar was interrupted by Bo Dallas, and I loved it. I thought it was great. Fantastic. Bo Dallas, he's great in this spot. And everybody always says, oh, I'd like to see him do something more serious, more, But I mean, if he can come out and he can work with Brock Lesnar and he can do all these things, and he can work with Sting, I think he'd be pretty happy with the little role that he's got. But of course, he gets absolutely destroyed. I think he got 6 German suplexes and an F5, and it was a pretty good, fun start to the show for Brock Lesnar. He just, he broke a bit of a sweat, and off he goes. And I don't know whether we'll see him for a while, but I hope we do. I hope he's back. But what do you do? What do you do with him? Where does he go from here without The Undertaker? Maybe that'll be the question of the week. Who's Brock Lesnar's next opponent, if anyone? We then moved on. We had the New Day versus the Lucha Dragons, and holy shit, this was incredible, this segment. New Day are unbelievable. We got Xavier Woods come out playing a trombone. This guy, is there anything this guy cannot do? He's nearly got his PhD, and he can play the trombone, he can wrestle, he can play video games like a beast. He's unbelievable. They're so entertaining, the New Day, and I'm glad they've got the titles back. But the big story here, and my Twitter feed blew up. The Dudley Boys returned, looking as good as ever. Unbelievable. They looked so good. Devon, I had my doubts about Devon looking any good. He's great. They are evergreen. These guys were my favourite tag team of the Attitude Era, or slash, I don't know whether they were Attitude Era. They might have been more Ruthless Aggression. That might have been more their period. But back in that in that day, wow, the Dudley Boys were amazing, and they turned it up. They got the tables, they did all of the great things that they always do, and now the tag team division looks so much stronger with primetime players, Lucha Dragons, New Day, the fucking Dudley Boys. Oh man, I'm so excited, and for the first time in about 3 years, I'm gonna watch SmackDown this week to see the Dudleys, and that's gonna be absolutely unreal. What a return. We then had another tag team match, Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose versus Luke Harper and Bray Wyatt. But this segment was all about, it was a really good match. There was nothing wrong with the match at all. Roman Reigns was about to get the victory, and we get lights out. And I tell you, this was one of the more impressive debuts I've ever seen. We got the debut of Braun Strowman. Now, I didn't know, Braun Strowman, I'm not sure, Braun Strowman, I think it is. We got the debut of him, and this was outstanding. I am all for bringing in guys like this. He looks the part, and he's absolutely massive. So, he looks intimidating. This guy monstered Roman Reigns, he monstered Dean Ambrose, and it added a whole new dimension to this feud and to the Wyatt family. Really super impressive. His finishing move, that I don't know, do you call it a triangle sort of chokehold, where he held Roman Reigns like a small child, and that was, what a debut. I'm so excited. It's given the show a fresh look. We've got, new tag champs. We've got the Dudleys who have come back, so there's a little bit of the old, little bit of the new coming in. It's got me excited again. It's got me reinvigorated. After 9 hours of wrestling over the weekend, I've come out actually wanting to watch more. We then had Miz TV, and I really don't know what to say about this. We had Charlotte crowing on about the Four Horsemen being a WWE faction, the best WWE faction ever, and they are not. Maybe if they were in the WWE, then they might have been the best WWE faction ever, but they weren't. It was a pretty awkward sort of segment, and they gave them mic time, and that's all well and good, and they gave them a really good lengthy time on TV, but again, there's no real personal issues here. I know they talk a little bit of trash and all this sort of thing, but there's no individual personal issues, and it's really convoluted to me. I want it to be a revolution. I want to see these girls wrestle, and they got a pretty lengthy match, but it was another 6-man tag match. So it was yet another kerfuffle. There was, drama everywhere, but whatever, I mean, it's just, it is what it is, and it's really hard to get excited about it because they're not interesting to me anymore. They don't have an individual story anymore. Charlotte's still playing, and I think she's almost overdoing it, the fact that her father is Ric Flair. I mean, she's her own talent, and she's amazing. So let's use them in a way that they're better used. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Probably none of that makes sense, but let me know in the comments, how do you feel about the Divas Revolution now that we actually have time to look back on it? Because I don't see it being all that effective. So after the 6-women tag match, we had Stardust. He assaults King Barrett, which I was a little bit disappointed about, to be honest, because I thought these guys had a good little thing going. Barrett, it gave him something to do and a chance to thrive. But now Stardust is the clear focus now moving forward, and he was interrupted by Adrian Neville, and it looks like this feud is going to continue. I'm happy about that, because these guys, I think they need to have a good solid match. I'm not sure if anybody watches SmackDown. Have they wrestled on SmackDown? Have they had, like a 15-minute, 20-minute match? We then moved on to Jon Stewart, and he was explaining his actions, and he said that he didn't want John Cena to beat Ric Flair's or tie Ric Flair's 16 World Championships. If you're going to tie Ric Flair's title reigns, then you need to be at 22, and John Cena is at 15. But WWE will rewrite their own history to suit them. We've got an appearance from the Nature Boy, Ric Flair, and this was great, actually putting a face to it instead of just talking about Ric Flair. Actually having Ric Flair there was a good idea. Cena then came down, and Cena came down after Ric Flair was talking about how much of a mess Jon Stewart has made of this whole situation. This is really just a media stunt, in my opinion, to get Jon Stewart to get some mainstream media coverage going into what will probably be somewhat of a little bit of a lull period before Royal Rumble. But I just think Jon Stewart would thrive as a, maybe even a commentator or something to that effect, a backstage interviewer, or get him his own show where he does somewhat of like a Stone Cold podcast type thing where he interviews people. Maybe get Jon Stewart to interview some backstage staff, to interview Kevin Dunn. I would love to see an interview with Kevin Dunn just so I could turn it straight off. But this was great. I thought John Cena was very strong. He ended up attitude adjusting Jon Stewart, and he took a hell of a bump. It looked like it sucked. It looked like it legitimately hurt the guy. He was sort of breathing lightly outwards. And but it would, man. It's not fun to get slammed on that mat. So I thought he did a great job. Randy Orton, Ryback, Cesaro, and Dolph Ziggler took on Rusev, Kevin Owens, Sheamus, and The Big Show. So another little bit of shoehorning going on in here. This was okay. It was pretty good. And within the match, there was a few little storylines that sort of started to, I guess, organically take shape. Ryback versus Kevin Owens, I would really like to see. They showed some really good chemistry in the ring. A couple of big bulls, sort of going at it. A couple of real physical styles there, meshing. We saw a little bit of tag team byplay between Rusev and Kevin Owens, which was fantastic. All of it involving Kevin Owens. And I guess, if you know me by now, and you know what kind of wrestling fan I am, I'm a massive Kevin Owens fan. I think he's fantastic. He can work with anybody on the roster. So there was a few extra little tidbits that came out of the match that were interesting. There was a really impressive final spot where they lifted up Big Show and dropped him down for an RKO. So Big Show just getting pummeled by everyone. We then went on to the Seth Rollins statue unveiling, and the speeches went on really long, but that was just a way to sort of build the tension, and the reveal was fantastic. We got the Stinger, came out, and it's major whenever Sting arrives because he's the man. And as far as Sting being the world champion, my opinion on this is I think he'd make a good contender. I just don't really want to see him win the title. I would like to see him in a one-off match for the title where he maybe gets narrowly beaten by Seth Rollins and he puts him over. But then again, you think back, he's already lost once. So if his next match is for the title, is Sting going to lose again? I really don't know. It looks like we may be even heading for a triple threat match, Sting versus Cena versus Rollins, which would, again, it would elevate Rollins, but I fear that we're in the middle of a title switch. I think there is a real chance that Seth Rollins could be the US champion, and pretty soon we could have John Cena tying Ric Flair for 16 world titles. I hope it doesn't happen, but it just might. But it was a great ending to Raw. It was a great ending to 9 hours of professional wrestling that I sat down and watched in my lounge room. So kudos to the WWE. You've come out of it unscathed in my household anyway. And I'm looking forward to watching SmackDown and seeing the Dudley Boys. So I'm hoping for more of the same from the WWE. Hopefully this is a sign that maybe we will be on the track to some entertaining TV again. And that's it, guys. I know it's a bit of a long one this week. I hope you've enjoyed CM Punk versus Stone Cold Steve Austin, 2 out of 3 falls. It's a pretty cool match. And as always, I'll be back this time next week with another Raw review, and I will have watched significantly less wrestling this time around. But for Murph's YT13, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to drop a like and answer the question of the week. We'll get some wrestling chat going on down below. And as always, for Murph's YT13, thanks very much for watching. I'll catch you on the next one.